This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, it's Cindy Harris, and I got some great cupcakes for you today. They're a chocolate cupcake with this wonderfully fluffy peanut butter frosting. Let me show you how I put them together. I first start by getting my muffin pan ready, and this recipe makes 12 cupcakes, so I'm going to go ahead and put 12 of the cupcake liners in my pan, and then I'm just going to set that aside. Now we're going to start melting 2 ounces of unsweetened chocolate. First put it in for 30 seconds. It's going to kind of look like this. We'll put it back in for another 30 seconds, and when we pull it out, it will be nice and creamy like this, and then we can just set that aside. Now let's get our dry ingredients together. We're going to start with 1 cup of cake flour. Now you do need to use cake flour as opposed to regular all-purpose flour. Cake flour is a little bit softer flour, and that works really great for this particular cake. Now we're going to put that in a medium-sized bowl, and then we're going to get some baking soda, and we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then comes 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now to boost our chocolate flavor even more, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, and we're going to put that right into the bowl with the flour and the other ingredients. Now, because we're using both unsweetened chocolate and cocoa powder, you're going to find this cupcake has this really great deep chocolate flavor. Now, with this mixture, we do have to whisk it together really, really well. And the reason is you can see how we have the little balls of cocoa. They just tend to kind of clump together. We've got to break those up. Now, if you were really having a problem with this, you could run it through a sifter if you'd like. But I find if I just take a minute or two with a whisk, I can break those little bits of cocoa powder down just fine. Now we're going to go over to the mixer, and we're going to get 4 tablespoons of softened butter. That's all the fat that actually goes into these cupcakes. And you do want to make sure that the butter is a little bit softened. And then we're going to put it on and just let it cream for, 15 seconds. It's not a lot of butter, but we do want to sort of break it up and get ready for our next ingredient. Now to add even more richness to that chocolate, instead of using white sugar, I'm going to use 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. And again, we really want to get this mixed in with the butter. Now, a lot of times when you're doing some sort of cake batter, you have so much butter that when you add the sugar, it fluffs up. Well, we don't have a whole lot going on, but we do want to make sure that we get it well mixed. Now at this point, take a moment and stop the beater and kind of scrape it down, because it's so important that we not have pockets of butter at this point. And then just once you get everything scraped down, just run the mixer for another couple of seconds. Then with the mixer on slow, we're going to add some flavoring. So we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And then there are some eggs that go into this cake. So we're going to go ahead and add 2 eggs, but just 1 at a time. And again, getting these mixed up is really important, so it should end up looking something like this. Now is the time to add our melted unsweetened chocolate. It's cooled enough now so that we don't have to worry about it cooking our eggs or anything. So just put that right on in, and again, make sure that it's nicely mixed up. Now we're going to start adding our dry ingredients. So we're going to start by taking half of our flour mixture, putting that in. And then we have a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. We're going to put half of that in. And then we're going to go ahead and put the rest of the flour mixture in. And you'll notice I have the mixture on slow. Go ahead and put the rest of the buttermilk in. And then this is a really weird ingredient, but we're going to be adding a 1/2 cup of boiling water to this mixture. And then you're going to want to pour this in slowly. You don't want it to, splatter on you. And then once the water is nicely mixed in, stop the mixer and scrape down your beater and the side of the bowl. And then just let it go back on for just about 10 or 15 seconds. We don't want to overbeat this cake batter, but we do want to make sure that all these wonderful ingredients we've put in are nicely mixed up together. Now you're going to notice immediately that this cake batter is much thinner and runnier than if you were to do a box cake mix. And because of that, I use my large scoop and I put 1 scoop. See how runny it is? It's very different than what we're used to now with these big, thick cake mixes. But to be honest with you, this recipe is like what my grandmother used to use before they had cake mixes. So just go ahead and start putting batter into each of the muffin wells. Now you're going to want to fill each of the wells about 3/4 of the way full. And if you happen to drip any of the batter like I did on the muffin pan, just go ahead and take a paper towel and clean that up. Because then we're going to pop these into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes. Now when they come out of the oven, they're going to be just perfect like this, these nice little domes, but I do need to check them for doneness. So what you do is you get a toothpick and you pop it right in the center of one of the cupcakes. If it comes out clean, then these are done. And I do like to let them sit on a rack in the pan for about 5 minutes. Now after the 5 minutes, I slide the rack out and then I just use a fork and I start lifting each of the cupcakes out to let them cool on the rack. Now, I can't tell you how tempting it is to just go ahead and start eating these cupcakes right now, but we do have to let them totally cool. And one of the things that I do is I don't start making the frosting until the cupcakes are totally cool, and that usually takes, about an hour or so. But when that hour is up, it is time to make this most delicious fluffy peanut butter frosting. And for that, we're going to start with a 1/2 cup of softened butter in our mixer. And you'll notice I have the whisk attachment on. That's real important for this. Then we're going to let that start creaming up till it gets nice and light. And then we're going to be adding some peanut butter, about a 1/2 cup of creamy peanut butter. And then it's time to lower the mixer and let those two things start whisking up. Now, do you see here how that butter is not getting mixed into the peanut butter? Well, if you start to see that happening too, stop the mixer and do a scrape down. Again, we don't want these pockets of butter. We need everything to be mixed up together. Now we're going to add 3/4 cup of powdered sugar or confectioner sugar. I don't bother sifting it. And get that going on a very slow speed. And then we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 tablespoon of milk. Now at this point, we're just trying to get all these ingredients mixed together. So we let it go for about 30 seconds, but you're going to start to notice that this powdered sugar is not incorporating. So at that point, we're going to stop the mixer and scrape down the bowl one last time. Then we're going to go ahead and lower the beaters again, and we're going to just let it mix on a medium-high speed. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this frosting is at this point it looks just kind of like a regular frosting, but we want it to be fluffy. So I put my timer on for about 5 minutes, and it's interesting. It goes from this to something almost marshmallow-like. It's this really, really light peanut butter frosting. So our cupcakes are cool, our frosting is made, and now it's time to put the two together. Now you can see this frosting has got a lot of volume to it. So I like to use that and kind of pile it up high on these cupcakes. Now also when I frost a cupcake, you'll notice I do keep a little border of the cake showing, and I think that's important. It gives a nice contrast. It doesn't just look like, just frosting. And so when you're using your little offset spatula to frost, just leave a little band of cake so that people can see the two colors of these wonderful little cupcakes. Now, when it comes to storing these little cupcakes, this frosting does not set up. It is just and soft and fluffy 2 days after you make them, as they are the first day. So one of the tricks that I have is I'll take these cupcakes and I'll put them on a tray and put them in my freezer overnight. I don't cover them anything. I let them freeze solid. Then I could take them and wrap them individually and put them in a freezer bag and let them sit in the freezer. But then when you want a cupcake, you just take it out, unwrap it, and let it sit out for about 30 minutes, and they come back just being moist and delicious as always. Now, before we close the show today, I wanted to thank Krista from Albuquerque, New Mexico. She sent in a question asking about high altitude baking. And for other people that are in that sort of environment, you find a lot of times that when you bake, things fall because of the air pressure and such. Well, I put my suggestions up on the website for others to see. And that's a great question, Krista. Thanks so much for sending it in. Now, if you'd like to get the recipe for our great chocolate cupcakes with the fluffy peanut butter frosting, go to the Cupcake show notes. I've got the recipe there for you. And if you have a question, send me an email. I've got a great new email address. I'll see you all next time.